Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Time to check in on the Phils. Oh, what's that? They suck? Oh! 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 I mean, that's just what's happening nowadays in Philadelphia sports. Rip my heart out, why don't you? Just when you thought they would turn the corner and they got back to 500 and maybe they could string together a few weeks in a row so after the Sixers lose, there's something to look forward to. Just spitballing ideas. Just throwing shit at the wall to see if it sticks. And yet, they get swept in San Francisco. Gabe Kapler absolutely owns them. Trey Turner looks like Nick Castellanos of last year. This team can't get a hit with runners in scoring position. Taijuan Walker might actually blow. Mets fans tried telling me. But I looked at his numbers and I said, well, there's something to the first halves that he continues to have. So I can't just pretend like he didn't have strong starts to seasons. He may have fell apart in second halves, which I was being optimistic that maybe Caleb Cotham and maybe a Cutter, just because we've seen the Cutter work for so many pitchers in this staff over the last year or so, that maybe there could be something to it. He's terrible. He's putting guys on base for free. Here's a walk, you get a walk, you get a walk, you get a walk, like he's Oprah. Everyone take a bag. He's got no command at all. It's unbelievable. Here's some numbers just to show you how awful it is that they can't get the timely hits. In the National League right now, they're fourth in hits with 386. They're third in doubles with 83. They're fourth in batting average with 261. And they're sixth in OPS at 743. But with runners in scoring position, they're batting 232 with a 324 slug. It's impossible to be this bad. Now, I have to admit, because of how dramatic it is and how piss poor it is, there is truth to this won't last forever. And because they're showing signs of hits throughout the game to get runners in scoring position, at some point, this ugly streak will stop. And they'll snap out of it, and they'll continue to score runs and put a bunch of runs up on the scoreboard to take over games. There's truth to that. But it doesn't mean I have to like it right now. It doesn't mean that I'm just going to pretend like I'm having fun all of a sudden. I'm not. This is irritating. They also are not fundamentally sound. Bryson Stott a few times over at second base. They don't know where to throw the baseball. When they're in the outfield, guys are advancing because they're just throwing it wherever the hell they want to. Nick Castellanos, the ball hits his glove, and then he drops it. You're never going to win games legitimately if that's how you play. It's a joke. Situational baseball. Oh, man, it's killer, man. It's killer. Cody Clemens over at first base. I was told, if you remember, the reason why the Phillies stink is because Rob Thompson's putting his lineup out and Kyle Schwarber's leading off. No. When Taijuan Walker sucks, your pitching is costing you. Their pitching hasn't been sharp. Who's Aaron Nola? Somebody tell me right now if you are so confident in Aaron Nola. And if you are, there's nothing to seriously grasp to make you feel that way. You just want Aaron Nola to do well, and you like Aaron Nola, which there's nothing wrong with that because when Aaron Nola dominates, it's special. But he's so up and down. Rangers just getting back. But because of where he's at, he's an unknown. Bailey Falter collapsed heavily. I despise the move to do Connor Brogdon because of Bailey Falter in the first inning. How'd that pan out? Now, ironically enough, Bailey Falter came in the first inning and got out of a jam. And then from there, he was getting crushed. But I thought the Sixers would take us on a ride, and then when the Sixer season ends, we will be broken for about a week, and then I can transition into Phillies baseball. And I don't want to hear it that the other teams in the National League are not doing well, because I don't care about the Mets. I don't care about the Padres. I don't think the Pirates keep this up consistently. The St. Louis Cardinals have dug themselves into a huge hole, so we'll see how they do in regards to wild card action, because that's where our eyes should be set, considering the Braves are the Braves. I don't care about if another team in the division or another team in the NL loses. Right now, it's so early in the season, I need to be entertained. When we're thinking about a playoff push, if the Phillies drop a game that they should win, but the Mets fall on their face, and that's huge, so the Phillies don't lose ground, I'll care when it's the right time to care about that. At this point, I don't want to hate my baseball team. And I was afraid that last year, because of how they did it, it would skew everybody's viewing experience. Well, not mine. Yo, Turner, what are you swinging at? How are you this terrible? He looks lost at the plate. It's seriously Nick Castellanos all over again. It's disgusting. You could do things the right way in this sport, and you realize if you do this more often than not, you'll be okay. You smoked it to left field, but it just so happened it was right at the left fielder. Or the center fielder makes an excellent diving grab, and he makes a sliding play to his right. Gets a good jump on the ball, and he's at the wall, warning track power, and he jumps over the wall a little bit to snag it. Okay, I mean, look, it would be different if Trey Turner is roping the ball, and you know he'll be okay. But some of the approaches, some of the worst baseball I've ever seen. He's too good. He's even, I thought, unless I thought wrong, but Nick Castellanos has eventually showed more of the Nick Castellanos that we believed we were getting. But I thought that Trey Turner was way more consistent compared to a Nick Castellanos. I could see a power hitter who swings out of his shoes the way Nick does. I could see why he could go through a month that isn't pretty. Rhys Hoskins, basically a power hitter like Rhys that goes through insane levels of highs and lows. Now, I think Nick is nowhere near as much as the Rhys experience. I've never been through a journey the way Rhys Hoskins forces me to go through a journey when he's available for you and goes through the crazy streaks. But I could get why Nick might forget how to be Nick. I don't know with Trey. I thought he was more polished than that, and I think he is. And it's not that we're doing. Can't be blaming the fan base. There's nothing wrong here. It's fully on these players. They just step in the box with the Phillies uniform, and then they automatically forget. Pitches are 5 feet off the plate. Nothing's worse than remembering the time Hector Neris first Nick Castellanos, bases loaded. Here we are, big moment. And my man Hector doesn't even have to throw a strike and still gets the job done. Doesn't even have to throw a strike. What are we doing? That's what I think about when watching Trey. It's never good when that memory pops up when I see your face. So if you want to think positively, Nick Castellanos finally showed up this year. Let's just hope Trey Turner doesn't need the full season. Holy hell. But yes, this isn't just a lineup thing. Rob's putting a lineup together. No, it doesn't matter if Schwarber's batting 1, 3, 5. Doesn't matter if Stott's batting 1, if he's batting 7, if he's batting 5, if he's batting 9. Doesn't matter. They're just not producing. And when your starters stink, Taiwan, oh man, Bailey Falter, oh man, I don't know what to do. Scott Boras has Andrew Painter on a string. It somewhat flew silently into the night, but when all the news was surrounding Andrew Painter, the Scott Boras quotes and him talking about the length of his career and what he can blossom into and how we can't rush this and we need to make sure we're taking the proper steps, I knew from then that this Andrew Painter thing would be drawn out. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the dumbest thing to do, but I bet you that he could be back sooner than he returns. But Scott Boras goes, hey, let me whisper in your ear a little bit of something. Think about your long-term money. Think about your health. You see how these pitchers around the league drop like flies? We got to maximize where we're at here and make sure you're set up for deep success. I got you, Scott, because you want to collect that dough. You got plenty of people. That's what Bryce Harper's contract was for. Jeez, throw us a bone, will you? Please. I'm not really mad at Gregory Soto. His last outing wasn't fantastic. 7-4, they lost to San Fran. With the bullpen, they're only going to be lights out for so long until some games get lost. Some games, you find a way to lose that one. We always talk about finding ways to win in pro sports, and that's what your clubhouse needs to do, and it shows a great sign of leadership, and it shows what your makeup is. Sometimes you find ways to lose, and your bullpen pisses one away, and that's just part of the game. That's part of the season. They're not the problem. It's timely hits, and it's starting pitching. I still don't even know who Zach Wheeler is yet, and that's Zach Wheeler. I skipped over him. I think he's the closest to being back to the rare Zach Wheeler or the rare form of himself. He's closer than Aaron Nola is. He's closer, obviously, than Ranger Suarez is. He's closer than any of these guys in the rotation. But he's going through the effects still of the way they approach the offseason and spring training, and probably the pitch clock, too. I hate to admit it because that bothers me, considering I see a ton of other talent in this league shining on the mound. That's why you had the offseason, to get right for it. Nola was inevitable, though, considering whenever he put somebody on base, his entire game would slow down. He'd overthink. I think it bled into his mechanics at times. As you can tell, I'm extremely disappointed, as I should be, because you finally fight back to be .500 baseball, and instantly you start sucking again. You come home to play the Chicago Cubs. Please do something important. Because even before this San Fran series, they did win against the Colorado Rockies, took 2 of 3 in Colorado, and then they swept the Toronto Blue Jays in South Philly in a 2-game stint. So there was something going, and leave it to the Phillies, wherever there's positivity, they drain you dry again. Dave Dombrowski went public, said, I thought we'd be doing better than this. I expected us to turn it around by now. Now, is that a sign of desperation? Because Rob Thompson, really, but I'm just looking at the upper management of the Phillies. I've heard them before in a time where it wasn't as great as it should be, and Kyle Schwarber stood in front of his locker, and he would say the same exact thing. It's baseball. It's a long season. We'll be okay. But once you go out on a limb, and I guess it's not really going out on a limb, but once you bring up the fact, well, I didn't think we'd be here by now, it's less of that cool, lackadaisical, don't worry about it vibe. And it's more, it's time to kick it into gear. What the fuck is going on? So it changes how they view it, which is good. They should have a kick in the ass. I don't know if that's a Dave Dombrowski button push, because as a president of baseball operations, you only have so limited amount of opportunities to do something like that. So to do that, I think is huge. But maybe it was him going for yo, fellas, I'm serious now. Get it together. Or if there was panic involved with it. I don't know. I'm trying not to answer this with my Phillies glasses on and with a very heavy biased view. I would think it leans towards a Dave Dombrowski message more than panic, because I don't think Dave panics. This is more credit to Dave Dombrowski than it is anything else with the current roster, with Bryce Harper's return, with anybody else. Think about where this team would be, by the way, if Rhys Hoskins was in your lineup. The power bat, right-handed bat. He got picked on a ton, and reasonably so at times, especially defensively, which was one of the worst things I've had to encounter. 30 home runs in the run production. His RBI every year that we took for granted. He makes it that much more dangerous. Takes pressure off others. I can't believe how bad Trey Turner is, though. Seems as if there's 8,000 things flying in his head as he's in the box, swinging at hot garbage. Just terrible ABs. At least when Bryson Stott last year was going through some rougher times, he could still work a 7-pitch AB, an 8-pitch AB, 9-pitch AB, see a lot of pitches, foul them back, might not catch up to them. And I'm sure down the road he would like to crush some of those pitches that are left over the plate, but maybe last year it would be fouled off. Working on some of the timing. I think he gave you a possible spark when it was his turn. Trey's doing the complete opposite. It deflates everyone. He was killing it in the World Baseball Classic. He took over the World Baseball Classic, seriously. Like, legitimately. He was the face of the sports world right before the season began. How do we get that? How do you go from that to where he is now? Odubel Herrera would string together APs. That looked better than that. Did I just say that out loud? Should I have said that out loud? Now, some of that was tongue-in-cheek. But I need to express how it really is, how ugly it is. This is so terrible. So terrible. You think maybe this is Trey's time to do it. Every time it's on a platter. Here you go, Trey. You're a new signing. You're a new addition. I used to say this about Taijuan Walker, but at this point, I give up until I'm proven otherwise, until he shows me that he's the first half Mets Taijuan Walker. I'd say you just got your paycheck this offseason. We brought you in here to play an important, impactful role. It's your time around the starting rotation. Take the ball and go give me 7. Take the ball, let's go 7 1/3 and 1 earned run and walk off that mound, and everybody in the dugout is giving you your high fives and smacking you on the ass as you're going back to the showers. Or when you're putting on some slides or whatever you do. Clean up a bit. Take a piss and then head back out to finish the game and watch Jose Alvarado when healthy. He's not even available for you right now to throw that into the mix too. It's been a few series since I've been able to pop on and talk Phillies, but there's just so much going on, so I apologize. Sixers, this. I still need to get my thoughts out on Flyers and Keith Jones and him becoming the president of hockey ops. So there's a lot. Work with me here. I'm doing my best and giving you everything. Well, Trey, I think you have to show the team why they paid you. So it's a big at-bat. There's a few men on in scoring position, 2 outs. So you got to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Be the guy to show the team you're worth the money. Show the city that Dave was smart to attack you early. No beating around the bush. I feel like I'm doing a lot of hand motions and moving my head a ton as I'm getting all fired up thinking about maybe Trey having his moments. Tom McCarthy on the call. Maybe John Kruk steps over it like he did with Bryce Harper's grand slam against the Chicago Cubs. Oh my God! That's all I think about every time. John Kruk screaming, oh my God, over Tom McCarthy. Anyway. Sucks. 20-23. Outrageous. All right, let's hear from the outrageous you out there on the Anytime Hotline. As always, you can leave your message at 856-442-9805. At any point, it's always available. You can leave a voicemail, whether it's Phillies, whether it's Sixers, whether it's Flyers. It's always available for you. And since we're doing this, why not? I might as well toss it in there. Check out Sports Talk with Broads on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Google Podcast, Google Play Store, and make sure you leave a 5-star rating and a review with your thoughts. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. The podcasting numbers have been growing constantly, and it's cool to see. And I push the YouTube more than that, but it is there for you to take me on the car rides with you wherever you may be going. Okay, phones. Let's kick it off.
Another regular season, no consistency from the Phillies. Something has to change about this batting approach, because I watch good teams around this league, and some of these offenses are more effective than what the Phillies are, with a lower batting average than what the Phillies have. But the difference is they strike out a lot less. Trey Turner needs to be way better for what he's getting paid and just for what he is in general. And I feel like this team needs to start playing fundamental baseball, and Taijuan Walker is a disaster, and they have to look for something else there.
Well, you might not be able to find that until you're talking basically the trade deadline. I don't know who's giving up starting pitching talent and good starting pitching talent right now. You have to wait for teams to get out of it. But I would imagine that Dave Dombrowski's doing everything in his power. I don't think Mick Abel is ready. It would be nice if you could pluck from your minors and from AAA, AA, and get some of your prospects up here. But I think by now they probably would have. I don't know if anybody's waiting. Trust me, Dave did it with Bryson Stott. Dave did it with some others. If it's your time to be caught up and you can help them out right now in a division race where you're second to last, you are only in front of the Washington Nationals as we sit here and record this show. Miami's underneath the Braves, and the Mets are in third place. There's a lot of time for this to move up and down, but for where you are right now, you need pitching desperately. If someone was ready, I think Dave would have called them up by now. So that's disappointing. Now, I want to look up the National League team stats because I read off doubles to you before. I read off the home runs, the hit total, the batting average. But I wanted to look at strikeouts. Oh, this is all of Major League Baseball. I'll go to the National League, and then I'll do all of baseball. The Phillies are in... Wait, what? Oh, yeah, never mind. They're 5th in the National League in strikeouts. San Diego has 393. San Francisco is 415. The Dodgers have 398. So 2 division winners right now are in front of the Phillies in strikeouts total. Milwaukee, that division is a bit blah, to be fair, but they are winning that division currently. And the Dodgers. So I don't know if that tells the full story. It's more timely hits. They could be grounding out, not necessarily striking out. And then in all of baseball, they're 10th. I'm not telling you I appreciate their strikeouts, but I'm just looking for context as you brought that up. because the runners in scoring position is so historically awful at this moment. It's hard not to think about how it needs to turn around on its own. You can't keep this up forever. And they are getting hits at other times. So because of that, if they're in the top of the National League in other categories and categories that matter to scoring runs over the long haul, batting average, hits, doubles, these runs will eventually be crossing home plates. At the same time, though, it's been part of their identity for a while. What if it doesn't turn around because that's who they are this year? They can't get over that hump. They're missing something. They're lacking. They seemed more confident last year when they haven't turned it around yet. It felt from the outside looking in that there was more of an urgency. And there was more confidence. There was a sense of belief. It definitely has a lower morale feel. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around. Doesn't mean they won't ever win games. Because part of me thinks there's too much talent on this team to continue this forever. They're just underachieving once again. And they'll probably overachieve for a month and a half to suck us all right back in and be the average again and find the mean, basically. I don't know. What if they are just a team, though, that never got the timely hits? And that's who they are. That's part of the brand. Hard to believe, but not impossible. Let's go back.
I want to think the Phillies are good, but just time after time after time, they just keep showing that they just lose to these teams like the Giants or whatever. But it's like, okay, you know this team has championship DNA, and we saw that last year in the postseason, but we got Trey Turner, so you feel like you're just not seeing the full potential right now. I don't know. I'm flabbergasted.
You're not seeing the full potential. That's the problem. Bohm hit a nice home run the other day. That intrigued me with the full swing, too. I'm closing my eyes and kind of visualizing it as I'm pretending I could do that. It was great. It was excellent. Bryce isn't a human being. I don't know why he's trying to fight people with just coming back from surgery, but he showed some fire there. I'd prefer him to not be kicked out of games for scrubs, but there's something to the life. Maybe he's seeing what I'm seeing. Maybe that was him trying to push his button. Just like I mentioned Dave earlier. Bryce feels something's off. So let me go out there and try and get the team to rise emotionally. And then they got swept by San Francisco. So it didn't work, if that's what it was. Or he just got caught up in the moment, got so excited to finally be back on the diamond that he let his emotions pour out too far. All right, we'll be keeping an eye on this team. Eventually, we'll get back to the day-to-day videos for your fight-ins. I know I did series by series for a bit because the Sixers were attacking their postseason, but there's still so many more thoughts I have on them. As I mentioned earlier, I want to try and throw a flyer show out there soon, so I don't know exactly when we'll get game by game again, but we're not too far away because once basketball slows down and the Sixers get knocked out of the second round like we see basically every year, it tends to fall back into the day-to-day stuff. So I appreciate all you guys. You're the greatest. I love you. We'll be talking soon.